Good morning, everybody. I apologize for starting us just a couple seconds late. I made new friends with Elise from NBC, and she was letting me do my favorite thing, which is to talk. So we'll get started here just as soon as I get my training up. So welcome to our November Central Count training, and I want to thank you guys for signing up to work at the polling place, and I want to thank you for I made it all the way through the 9 o'clock training without doing that. I want to thank you for signing up to work this election. I can tell you it's going to be the busiest one that we've ever had, and you can expect a lot of ballots. Can't hear me? Are we okay? All right.
Excuse me.
Yes?
It's hard to take notes when it's so dark. Any way you can turn the lights on? This is as bright as it gets, unfortunately.
Yeah, I guess this is as bright as it gets. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Okay. So, we're going to talk about what to expect on Election Day. I think this will probably take 45 minutes or so, based on questions that you guys ask. As always, after each election, we sit down and think about what are the things that went well, what are the things that we need to improve on, where can we make things a little bit better, and we've done that again this election for Central Count, and I think we've got some ideas that you guys are going to be very much in favor of that are going to help to get us processing ballots faster and more efficiently. So, talk about staffing and the setup of Central Count. We'll do a quick review of August and then just some of our Central Count procedures. So staffing-wise, we have 118 people scheduled to work at Central Count. That's an enormous number, but what we've decided to do is stagger how folks are working so that we have a lot of people working 8 hours instead of having a few people work all day. Our expectation with that is that you'll be less tired, and if you're less tired, you'll have less mistakes, and everybody will be happy at the end of the night. And so that's what we're going for. We do have a group of folks that have worked Central Count since 2016 that are going to be there the full day because we have a lot of new people. And so for those of you who are new that have never done this before, I'm going to throw a lot of information out at you. It could be a little bit intimidating. Don't be intimidated by it. We're not going to stick you out on an island and hand you 700 ballots and say, get these processed and we'll talk to you when you're done. You're going to be working in teams, and you're going to be working with experienced people, and there's going to be people there to ask questions. One of the nice parts of working in Central Count is that there are no voters there to interrupt you. You will probably have observers, but you're not going to have voters interrupting you. So you're going to be able to just work your process and go through things, and you're going to be in good shape. So we're going to have Central Count this time at St. Pat's Church. If you're new, please go down to Human Resources at City Hall and fill out the paperwork so that we can pay you. And as I mentioned, lots of half days. Okay, so setup. We're going to have what's called a DS-450 for this election for processing ballots. For those of you that have been around before, you know that we usually bring out 6 of the DS-200s. They're the little machines. They take forever. You put a ballot in there, and you watch the time spin around. And then finally, the ballot either kicks back out because there's a problem with it, or it accepts it. We're able, in partnership with the county, to get a DS-450. It's a high-speed tabulator. And we've tested it, and I got to play on it, and it's really cool. You take a stack of ballots, and you lay that stack on there, and you push scan, and it just runs them through. And it runs 70 ballots a minute. as opposed to one ballot every 8 seconds on the DS200. So I think with that machine, we're going to be able to average probably 1,500 ballots an hour, give or take, and we're going to have plenty of time to process all the ballots that we have. AJ, who I didn't see AJ come in, he might be watching this at home or watching it later. AJ came to the training that we did and that we had for this machine, so he knows how it's going to work. But additionally, because it's the first time we're using this, ES&S is providing us an on-site support person for that machine for the day. So we're going to be in really good shape with using that machine. The other thing that we're going to do is we're going to have a DS200 to process ballots if we need to. We'll have that backup machine. Just in case we're finding that we're not getting done as fast as we want, we'll have another machine that we can use to process ballots. We're also going to have 3 express votes for remade ballots. And so for those of you that are unfamiliar, the express vote is a touchscreen, and it kicks out a little card that's about that long and about that wide. And that ballot will go through the machine faster than a full-size ballot. It's also a lot easier to remake those. We've got a couple of people that are experts on remaking ballots. They're going to continue to remake ballots, and then we'll assign some other folks to be with them to remake those ballots, because 2 people have to remake ballots. So we'll be able to do that, but then we're also going to have multiple tables set up to process ballots. And as of this morning, we had issued, yes?
Can you explain what remade ballot means and why someone has to do it?
Sure. What does a remade ballot mean and why would someone have to do it? So a remade ballot is where, for whatever reason, the machine won't accept the ballot that the voter voted. Typically what we see in an election like this is that the voter overvoted, meaning they voted for more than one candidate in a contest. And so you have to remake the ballot, but that one contest that they overvoted, you would not do anything. So if I was, and I don't know how somebody could do this, but let's just say that I was a voter that decided I was going to cast a vote for president for both Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And then I went through the rest of the ballot and I only voted for one candidate in each office. My ballot wouldn't go through the machine because you can only vote for one person for president. So what you would have to do remaking that ballot is you would not make any selections for president because you don't know what the voter's intent was. And then you would fill the rest of the ballot out just like how they voted it, just how I voted it. And then you would put that ballot through the machine. So that way all my votes would count for all the other offices. It's just nothing would be counted for president. Other times ballots can get damaged in the mail or in the process of being handled. And if the barcode around the edges of the ballot is ripped or has faded, the machine can't read it and will reject it. So then you would just remake the ballot exactly as the voter did.
Also, the military ballot has to be done.
Thank you, Diane. You can also get a paper ballot from military voters, where military voters can be emailed a ballot, and so they just print it out on regular paper. So you would have to remake that ballot onto regular ballot paper and ballot stock. So, yes, thank you. Good point.
Is there a follow-up that the original paperwork follows such that there's some ability to back check?
There's always an ability to check those. What happens with those ballots is, and you can see this on the ballot, there's a little piece down at the bottom that says, remade ballot number 1. And then over here is the original ballot. There's a spot where you mark number 1. And then the two people that did it have to initial that. So then at some point, if we needed to, we save all those remade ballots in a particular envelope called a remade ballot envelope. And if the time came where someone said, hey, did you really remake this ballot right? You could look and go, well, here's Dave's original ballot number 1, and here's Dave's remade ballot number 1. Yeah, they did it exactly like we would do it. You know, they left out the two people for president because he voted for both of them, but they marked everything else right. So yeah, there is that trail. We're going to have multiple tables set up to process ballots. And again, when you're processing ballots, you're working in teams. So multiple inspectors look at the ballot envelopes, and the first thing you're looking for is, does the ballot have a voter signature? Does the ballot have a witness signature? And does the ballot have a witness address? Missing any of those three things makes the ballot defective, and it has to be rejected. You can't reject ballots until 8 p.m. because the voter has until 8 p.m. to cure that defect. As of this morning, we had 24 ballots that were set to be rejected because of one of those defects. We check all those ballots when they come in, and we contact the voters so that they can fix them. And that number fluctuates daily. So a few days ago, that number was 63. Last Thursday, it was 17. It is all based on how many ballots come in that are missing something. But we contact those voters. It's one of the reasons that I say all the time, give us your phone number on your absentee ballot application. Because if you have a problem, we can call you and you can fix your ballot really easy. If we don't have a phone number, then our only option is to send you a letter. And we still do that, but it takes a lot longer. And as we get to this point in time, it's a lot more difficult for the voter to be able to fix things. So we continue to do that. So hopefully that number will be pretty low on election day. But we're going to have all the ballots sorted by ward, and we're going to have the ballots alphabetized for you. And I can tell you that as of right now, everything is sorted by ward and alphabetized except for the in-person votes that occurred, in-person absentee votes that occurred yesterday. Those ballots are in the process of being alphabetized and separated by ward. So you're going to be in good shape as far as that goes. You're not going to have to worry about doing any of that. One of the things that you have to make sure that we do is have, two people look at those, and then you're going to slide them down, right? You're going to have another two people that open the ballot envelopes. And back in August, we gave you those electronic letter openers. And I heard nothing but positive feedback about those. And given the number of ballots that we had, we ordered, I think, 10 more of those. So you should have plenty of those. And I told Derek to order more batteries because we don't know how long those things will run on the batteries that they have. And Derek took me very seriously and ordered 3 of the jumbo packs of AA batteries. So you should have plenty of batteries to get through the day. But if you find that you're running low, let us know and we can always buy more. So I kind of mentioned this. We've had more absentee ballots issued than ever before for this election. Of course, this has been a strange year for absentee voting. For a normal April election, we'll get somewhere in the range of 3,000 to 4,000 absentee ballots. For a normal August election, we'll get around 2,000 absentee ballots. I'll tell Diane and the folks that normally work in person or central count, why don't you show up about 2 o'clock? That'll give you plenty of time to get everything processed. We'll put a couple of machines up there. You guys will be fine. And everything's changed in how people are voting now. Now folks are voting, and instead of 10 to 15% of people voting via absentee ballot, the last 2 elections, 77% of people are voted absentee ballot. For the year, we have issued over 40,000 absentee ballots. That's just unheard of here in Janesville. And it's continuing now. We've issued more absentee ballots for this election than we did for April and August combined. We still have all day today for in-person absentee voting, all day tomorrow for in-person absentee voting. People are still requesting that we mail them ballots. That number has dropped it down, but we still had 25 requests to put ballots in the mail for this election. And so it's still going. So I've been saying I thought we'd have around 24 to 27,000 absentee ballots issued for this election, and I'd sort of settled on about 25,000 would be the final count. Probably going to be around 24. I'm pretty comfortable that we're going to hit that number no problem. It's going to be a long day. It's going to be a lot of work. Yes? How many registered voters are in Janesville? Well, we are at about 38,500, but that number is also changing daily. Yesterday we had 95 registrations at in-person absentee voting. Now, that's not 95 new voters. That's 95 total registrations, so it's new voters, people with name or address changes. But some of them could be an address change and a new voter to Janesville. I know that I was working with a young fella that had moved here from Darien. So he's not necessarily a new voter, but he's a new voter for us. We have added, since August 25th, about 3,000 voters to the rolls, which I told the group before you they should really appreciate, because that's 3,000 they aren't going to get on election day. So Department of Administration estimates we have about 44,000 eligible voters in Janesville. I'm expecting that we're going to end up with about 32,000 people who end up casting a ballot in this election, and 25,000 of those will be absentee and the other 7 will be in person. I don't think those numbers are going to change a whole lot. I don't think we're going to see 38,000 people vote, but that's how many we have registered. Yeah, this is a long day. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of sitting. It's a lot of thinking. You know, one of the things I'd encourage you to do, we've got a lot of people. We've got times on our side. We've got a machine that can process the ballots. Don't be afraid to stand up and stretch every once in a while. You know, you're allowed to use the restroom. You don't have to be chained to that chair all day. We are going to be checking in with you guys, and it's not meant to put pressure on you or to say you're working too slow or I need you to speed it up. It's that I'm getting phone calls today from the media asking me, well, when are you going to have results? And you know, I've told them that their expectation that we're going to have results 10 minutes after the polls close needs to be rejiggered. They need to readjust their expectations that it's probably going to be closer to 10 o'clock than it is to 8 o'clock. And it might go past there. But as we're talking throughout the day, if I know that we've sent you out 22,000 ballots and I call you at noon and you say that you've got, in the first 5 hours, you've gotten 6,000 ballots done, I'm going to feel pretty good about where we're at. And I'm going to be able to tell them, yeah, I still think we're going to hit 10 o'clock. If I call you and you've gotten 500 ballots done, well, first I'm going to have to figure out what went wrong. But the second thing is going to be, I can start changing those expectations for the media a little bit of, it might be 11 o'clock. Don't get wrapped up in the number, because the first couple hours you're there, there's a lot of processing of ballots and nothing going through the machine, because you got to get those first sets opened. And ballots are going to come out to you in multiple waves. We're going to have the first wave of ballots that come out. We're going to probably leave City Hall about 6:30, and that's where we're going to bring out everything that we've gotten through Saturday. And it's going to be alphabetized and set to go, and it's going to be the majority of the ballots. It's going to be 22,000 of the ballots. Then we'll have a second wave of the stuff that we got in Monday and the stuff that we got in on Election Day up until that point. That again will be sorted by ward and alphabetized and brought out to you. And then we're going to have the stuff that trickles in throughout the day, the ones and the twos. And so there's going to be a lot. But we're going to try and get it to you as early as possible, get you the majority of it so you can get working. One of the things that we found out back in April was we let you guys sit around way too long because we didn't have a good game plan in place to get ballots out to you, so we've tried to correct that. We're going to issue you a log of the issued and returned ballots, just like we always do. You got to count the number of ballots in a ward and compare it to the number of ballots on that log, just to make sure there isn't a discrepancy, right? If we say the computer-generated log says there's 200 ballots in Ward 1, you should have 200 ballots. If you don't have 200 ballots, we have to figure out why. And if those numbers don't match, if the numbers match, start processing, get going. If they don't match, stop, call us, pick a different ward to start sorting through, right? Because we want to figure out why those numbers don't match. Typically, they don't match because we took a Ward 1 ballot, read it wrong, and put it in with Ward 10. So you're short one ballot in Ward 1 and you're plus a ballot in Ward 10. But we can figure that out. We'll come out there, we'll help you figure that out. Yes?
This is a little off topic, but how does Janesville verify the person that's voting, sending in a ballot, and when they go to the poll?
How do we verify the person that sends in the ballot?
Right, a couple of years ago, I had to get a federal ID card.
Okay.
You still don't, the person coming to the poll,
They have to show photo ID.
they don't have to show ID.
In Wisconsin, they do.
They do.
Yep. In Wisconsin, for someone to vote, they have to show photo ID, whether that's voting absentee or if it's voting in person.
Oh, okay, so basically, what they'll do, the absentee person, they'll put down whatever their information is off of their card.
Well, they have to actually show us their photo ID or we don't issue them a ballot.
Gotcha, okay.
Yep. No, that's fine. And that's a good question, because nobody's going to be issued a ballot unless they've met the photo ID requirement. Yes? Right. Not everybody returns it, so how do they match? What we give you on the log is it shows, Dave Godek, ballot returned. And it could say my son's Patrick Godek. It won't show that it's returned. But then the count at the bottom is the count of how many were returned. So you have a log of everything that we issued, with it marked as returned or not returned. And so you're counting just to make sure that the number we give you that says, 200 ballots were returned is how many you have. Any other questions?
So someone who maybe requested an absentee ballot and then decided to vote in person on Tuesday, that would show, when they go to the poll to show their IDs, that'll show that they have not returned one, they're okay.
Correct. If someone requested an absentee ballot but it wasn't returned, it'll show in the poll book at the polls that the ballot was issued, but it won't show that it was returned. If it was returned, it shows that the ballot's returned. And so they can appear at the polls and they can vote in person. Part of it's a timing issue, and part of that timing issue is we have to at some point print that log, and we're still getting ballots in after that. And it's because if we didn't, you guys would never actually be able to have a log to look at. You have a question?
Yeah, just really off topic. How many polling places are there in town right now, and what is it usually?
Usually we have 10 polling places. We've consolidated down to 4 for this election. So once you've matched and you're processing your ballots, and we talked about this part, 2 election inspectors verify the envelopes for signatures and the address of the witness. If the envelope is missing a signature or an address, put it to the side. Don't open it. Those are going to be the ones that are set for rejection at the end of the night. But the voter still has until 8 p.m. to come cure that defect. Open ones that have the address and signature, remove the ballot. What we're going to do differently this time, historically what you've had to do at that point is assign the voter number to the log, to the envelope, and to the ballot. What we're going to do this time is we're going to assign the voter number to the log and to the envelope. So you're just going to have to put it on the ballot. You're not going to have to move it through. We're going to take those 2 steps off, hopefully free up a little bit of your time. And it's going to be typed into that log, so it's going to be real clear. And you're just going to need to number the ballot itself. Now, for the subsequent runs of ballots that come in, that's the ones that you're going to have to assign numbers to. And you're going to have to put on the log, on the envelope, and on the ballot. But we're going to cut a lot of that off for you. So it should make it really, really easy to assign those numbers.
I was just going to make a comment. Every time a person has to write something down, there's another opportunity for an error.
Every time someone has to write something, there's an opportunity for an error, and that's why we're trying to take 2 of those writings away. And so we want to try and limit errors as best we can. Your open envelopes, we ask that you keep those in alphabetical order, that you rubber band them and you put them in a tub. So we're going to have banker boxes for you, and you're not getting 15 ballots, right? I don't even know if there's anybody left in Ward 27 to vote in person. I can't imagine that there is, based on the number of absentee ballots we've issued in Ward 27. It's just one that sticks out in my mind. I'm sure there are a few people left, but I can't imagine that there are any. We've probably issued 800 or 900 absentee ballots to Ward 27. It's a big number. You know, we've got what I would call 27 real wards. We've got a few wards that have 1 voter in them from annexations. So when you think about 22,000 ballots being issued on, 27 wards, you're looking at 750 ballots on average. And of course, we've got wards that have voting in much higher numbers than other wards. So you don't have to get the entire stack of envelopes into one rubber banded pile. But you can do them in piles of 50. And that's just going to make it easier if we have to go back through stuff, that they're enveloped and and again, you've got the people to do this. It's different if we had 25 people and we were asking them to process 25,000 ballots. Then it would just be, let's see what we can do and how many days we need to do this. You should have enough people to do this, and it gives you the opportunity to do different jobs, so maybe for a while you're opening ballots, and it's after an hour you rotate and you become the person that pulls the ballots out of the envelope. And then an hour after doing that, you become the person that's keeping the ballots in alphabetical order and rubber banding them in stacks of 50. It'll help to tame monotony and not get you to making those errors because you think you're just doing the same thing over and over again. After all the ballots in a ward are processed, we should record the following on a summary page, and Diane will have that. You just need to give her these numbers, and AJ will work with her, and then whoever's recording those numbers from the log, the last number that we issued, the name of the voter that was issued that number, and then the total number of ballots that processed through the machine. So if we send you out 200 ballots, and through your process you decide that all 200 ballots are good, you would say, Diane, we gave AJ 200 ballots to process. AJ processes those through. He should be able to say, Diane, 200 ballots went through the machine. If they match, that is great. If they don't match, we've got to figure out what happened that they don't match. AJ might say, Diane, I've only got 199 ballots that went through the machine, but I've got this one is a paper ballot from a military voter, and I've sent it over to Robin to be remade. So once she remakes it, we're good to go. And then we're fine. Go ahead, move on. You know where all 200 of your ballots are. Maybe you have your 200 ballots, you only send 198 to Diane. Hey, Diane, we've got 2 set here for rejection that we've set aside. Where do you want these? And AJ says, we got 198 ballots that went through. Okay, great. Those are the kind of steps we can take to find an error before the end of the night. Because I can tell you, at the end of the night, when all the paperwork's being done, and you go, wow, in Ward 1 we issued 200 ballots, but we only have 199 that went through the machine. But we did that at 9 o'clock in the morning. You're not going to have any idea what happened. And that's going to cause people to ask questions, and the questions of, oh, did you just not like how that person voted, so you threw their ballot away? Right? And we don't want to put ourselves in that position. And I can tell you, because Janesville is one of about 10 communities that use central count, I have gotten more phone calls in the last 2 days and emails from media members from all over. Can I come up there and take some pictures of what you guys are doing? It's really neat and I want to see what it looks like. We're going to do a story about it. So folks are going to want to talk to you and look at you. I had somebody call me yesterday or email me yesterday, and they wanted to know what time on election day would be good when you're not busy that you can do an interview with us. And really, we want to kind of do a few. So, could you throw out some different times that you're not busy that you can talk to us? So the central count thing really has people, it has their interest because there's a lot of absentee activity, not just in the state of Wisconsin, but throughout the country. But then it's unique how we do things compared to other communities. Other communities just take their absentee ballots and send them out to the polls. And what we found back in 2015 was that just really wasn't working for us anymore. It was becoming more and more challenging to get those votes processed timely and not interrupt the people who were coming in to vote. And so we've been working this system for 4 years, and as a general rule, we do a really good job with it. And so I welcome everybody from the media to come watch, but just be aware that they're going to be there. And we don't want to give them anything to crow about. So we talked about this. After word's been processed through the machine, the worker should write down the vote number for the last ballot, compare it to the last tally number. If they match, move on. If they don't match, we have to investigate those discrepancies. One of the neat things about this DS450 is you put a stack of ballots on there and hit scan, and it actually separates them into different trays. And so the bottom tray is ballots that are all good, everything's good, and it's counted, and you can pull those out. The middle tray is anything with a write-in, which is really nice because we have registered write-ins for this election that you guys are going to have to go through for each ward. And then the top tray is ones that they weren't processed for some reason. There was something about that ballot that it didn't process it. Sometimes the machine just didn't like something. It came in a little cattywampus, so it didn't get in there. Sometimes it's got X's on it. Sometimes it's been overvoted. There are all kinds of things that happen with it, but it gives you the opportunity to look without what the DS200 does, which is if you put a ballot in and it spits it back out, you've slowed your whole process down because you can't put any more ballots in until you figure out what's going on with this one. This just keeps running them through. So it's really nice from that perspective. And so,
How many ballots does the machine hold before you have to empty it?
how many ballots will that machine hold before you have to empty it? I have no earthly idea. I didn't think about that, Diane. That's a great question. I don't want to tell you that it holds a certain number before you have to empty it because I don't know what that number is.
And then,
But it's several hundred.
good. And once if you empty it, do we have a lockbox to put them in until we count them?
What do you mean until you count them?
Well, and,
Or do you mean until you seal them up?
yeah,
We will look at getting you a lockbox. That might be a bit of a challenge because, again, you're talking about 21,000 ballots. So,
I just didn't want to lay it loose.
no, and I certainly understand that, and I think that makes sense. What you might want to do, as opposed to having them laying loose, is we've got all of Ward 1. Here, it's here. Let's seal it right now, record it, and secure it. Right? And then at the end of the night, if you've got 50 ballots that have come in and you can put them all in one bag and they can just be mixed, that's fine. Yes?
Again, I hate to be off topic, but if me and my partner are sitting there, and we run across a question that neither one of us can answer, who's backing us up? Who can we go to and say, what do we do with this thing?
The people that you will talk to, if you've got a question, and that's not off topic, that's very on topic with new people. What do I do if I'm sitting here and I look at something and I'm like, I don't know. And the partner I'm working with goes, I don't know either. The people to talk to are Diane, who is right there. And then Diane has people who assist her. Robin is one of her assistants. AJ is one of her assistants. They're kind of like the co-chief inspectors. They are people that you can have that conversation with. And then ultimately what happens, whether it's at central count or a polling place, if there's a question as to how do we process this ballot, should this ballot count, what was the voter's intent here? You bring everybody together and say, you know, this person marked 2 candidates, but then circled this name. So I think that their intent was the person that they circled to. And Diane looked at it and she said, no, I don't think that's accurate. I think that we can't determine voter intent. And that's a fine position to take, but then you vote as a group. And so everybody gets together and you call a vote. How many people think that the voter's intent was the person that's name was circled? And everybody who thinks it is raises their hand and you count the noses. And so if there are 17 people that are working at the time and 9 of them say, yep, that was the voter's intent, then that's how you process the ballot. And then Diane logs that in the inspector statement that we voted on this ballot, we took a vote, and this is how it went. You got a question, sir?
Yeah, you said you have the phone number. You allowed to call the voter in case like. I'm just asking.
That's a really good question. We might have the phone number. No one's ever asked me that question. I don't know the answer to that.
You said the phone number's on the envelope?
No, we've asked the voters when they apply for an absentee ballot to provide us their phone number, and then we can put it into the system. But it doesn't print up on the envelope anywhere. But that's a good question. I'll have to get some direction on that. I don't know the answer to that. Sure.
Similar to that, for hopefully the few absentee ballots that say don't have a witness signature, is there a means then to contact them?
Sure. Is there a means to contact the voters for the ballots that don't have a signature? If there's a means to contact them, my office has already done it. We contact the voters when there's a problem with their envelope. We'll generally get a few different responses. One is, oh, I got to get that fixed right away. What do I have to do? And we see the voter like in 5 minutes. You know, I don't care. They could be in Arizona and somehow they show up in our office 5 minutes later. Right? The other one is, you know, it's just not that big a deal. I don't care. Just reject it. And so then we'll mark that one. Voter declined to fix, go ahead and reject it. And we'll let you know, just reject that one. You have to still wait till 8 o'clock because they could change their mind. But the voter declined to fix it. Sometimes we don't get any response. We try to limit that number and we contact them the best way that we can. Typically it's by phone, sometimes it's by mail. It is almost impossible to double vote in the state of Wisconsin because if you've been issued an absentee ballot, the system tells us that you've been issued a ballot and won't let us issue you another one. And if they overvoted. Yes. No, because we don't open the envelopes, so we don't know how they voted. We contact them if there's a problem with the outside of the envelope. If there's a problem with how they voted, we're not going to know that until Election Day. We're going to need 5 total tapes at the end of the night for any machines that you guys use. We've got referendums that I'm sure you're all aware of for Black Hawk Technical College, the school district of Janesville, the school district of Milton, and then we need just our regular tapes for the county and for me. So the DS450 works a little bit different than the DS200. The DS200 basically runs a calculator type tape like you would see on a 10 key. The DS450 has a actual printer. It's really nice. I don't know how many of you are on Facebook and follow the city, but they posted a picture of me playing with the DS450 yesterday on Facebook. You can see it's a big machine. It's on wheels, it's got its own cart, it's very nice. So how that looks when it prints is going to be totally different than what our experienced workers are used to. Okay? Don't be intimidated by that. Again, we've got somebody from ES&S that's going to be there with us from opening till we're done, and they'll be able to help us. And we've got all the supplies that we need. We ordered extra ink cartridges for it, so we're going to be in good shape from that perspective. You're still going to have to sign those tapes at the end, and I'm not sure that this machine is programmed to print the five sets of results. I think it is, but I'm still learning on this machine as I go. I was testing it yesterday and going through it and doing stuff, and Derek came over and he said, "You know, you did that wrong." And I said, "No, what?" So we had to start over. But it just gave me an opportunity to play on it some more. So do kind of keep an eye on it, make sure it's printing correctly, but don't get worked up about it. We will need 3 people to sign, a minimum of 3 people to sign everything. So Diane keeps a tight ship of the paperwork that has to be signed. Central count, we're going to be doing at the gym of St. Patrick's School. I mentioned that earlier. It's at 305 Lincoln Street. It's on the corner of Lincoln and Cherry. You know, we want you to set up your machines when you arrive, get them turned on, run your zero tapes, that sort of stuff. We'd ask you to get there at 6 a.m. My intention is at 6:30 to leave City Hall with our ballots. We are bringing them in a city van so that we can do it all in one trip. And we are going to have a police escort for that to ensure that we have safety going to and from the polling place. More so to than from, because, you know, once I drop the ballots off, no one cares if I get blown up. But we want to make sure those ballots get there safely. So we'll do that. We're going to need help getting those out of that van and into the gym. And then you guys at 7 a.m. can start working. And we want you to be ready to go at 7 a.m. I don't want to be bringing ballots into you at 7:15 and losing 15 minutes of processing time. Right? Just some notes on housekeeping type things. Steve Kaya is one of the partners at Nolan and Mowat Law Firm, and he contacted me about a month ago and he said, "The partners and I talked and we want to buy lunch for the poll workers." So they're going to provide lunch for everybody on election day. So it's very generous of them. And we also have had citizens who said, "You know, I can't work the polls either because of my job or because I'm in a high-risk group, but I do want to help out," and they've donated money to buy you guys dinner. So we'll also be providing dinner for everybody on election night. So no matter what time you're working, you're going to get fed while you're there. We're going to have what's called a safety officer. It's going to be a city employee whose job is to make sure that we're following COVID protocols the best we can at Central Count. Social distancing is really tough to do when 2 people have to look at an envelope and agree on something. But we are going to be providing these masks. These are N95, Honeywell N95 masks to wear. And so they filter all kinds of particles. These are the best masks that you can have. We're going to require everybody to wear these. We will have face shields available if you want to wear those. We're not going to require you to wear a face shield, but it's there if you feel more comfortable wearing it. We'll have gloves. Again, not going to require you to wear gloves, but if you feel more comfortable wearing gloves, they're there for you to wear. And we'll have hand sanitizer available so that you can sanitize your hands as you feel you need to. Safety officers are going to make sure that areas are getting sanitized pretty frequently. They're going to make sure that everybody's wearing their mask properly. Yes? Sure. So a couple security questions. One is, are the machines hooked into a network or on the internet or anything? And they aren't. They're free from the internet. One of the unique things about how we do elections in Wisconsin is we have what's a very decentralized system. So in most states, either the state or the county runs elections. In Wisconsin, the municipalities run elections. And so with that decentralized system, it's really hard to have everybody doing something online or networked in. And so no, our machines aren't hooked into a network at any time. The only thing that comes close to a networking is when results are modem to the county at the end of the night. The second thing is general security for the polling place for central count on election day. We are going to have observers there. You know, I can promise you that there are going to be people that are going to want to come in and watch the process, and we're going to set an area up for observers to watch, and that's perfectly fine. It's legal. I encourage it. I think most people who observe the absentee balloting process find that it's a good, tight process, and after about 45 minutes, they get bored, because all they're watching are papers pushing back and forth. One of the things that we will provide you is a sign that says no weapons are permitted inside. So nobody will be able to come in with a weapon. And the thing that I would tell you is that if something makes you feel unsafe, somebody's actions, call 911. Right? I would rather that you err on the side of caution. The police chief would rather that you err on the side of caution than not. So if you see something that doesn't look right, say something. The police are happy to come out and take a look at it, and they'll deal with it. This didn't happen in Janesville, but in one of the townships just outside of Janesville a couple of years ago, during just a normal April election, a fella drove into their parking lot, and he stopped. He got out of the car, and he walked in, and he walked through the polling place, kind of doing this. And he left, and he went back out to his car, and he drove around the parking lot a few times, and he parked, and he got out of his car again and peeked his head in the polling place. And then he went back out to his car, and he drove some more around the parking lot, and then he parked one last time. And the poll workers called 911, and a sheriff's deputy responded because it was their area. Well, it turns out he was looking for his son, who he was supposed to be meeting to vote with. Right? But it didn't look right. He didn't say anything to anybody. It was just kind of creepy. And so it wasn't a big deal at the end, but nobody was upset or, the police officers weren't like, why did you waste my time with this guy that's just waiting for his kid and trying to find him so they can vote together? They were happy to know that the poll workers were observing what was going on, were paying attention to what was going on, saw something that didn't look right, and they said something. So that's the thing I'd encourage you to do. I don't think we've got things to worry about. I'm not privy to any knowledge of, there's going to be some terrible thing that's going to happen. I can tell you that we've planned things, and I've talked with Chief Moore, and Chief Moore's position is, tell us, we'd rather check it out and be wrong and find out that, you weren't right, there was nothing there, than not check it out and you were right and we're walking in after the fact to something that's a lot worse.
So the only thing to keep people from bringing weapons is the sign?
Well, the sign's not going to keep people from bringing weapons into the room, right? That doesn't, a sign's not going to stop anybody. What the sign does is it alerts people that weapons aren't allowed in the room. And so if they bring a weapon into the room, now the police have a way to act on that. And of course, if they're coming in with a weapon with malice of intent, we're not going to worry about a sign. We're going to call 911 and run, right? But what we've seen in some public settings is people come in and want to open carry to exercise, if they can exercise that Second Amendment right, and they're certainly free to do that, just not inside the polling place, right? So if they see that sign and they're a responsible gun owner, they're going to take their gun and go put it in their car and then come in and observe what's going on. And so we want to give them that warning. But then we also want to have the police be able to do something about it if they do show up. And even if they don't have malice of intent, but they just want to make a statement, they can make that statement to a fellow who also has a gun instead of our poll workers, right? Because a police officer can deal with that. Yes? Okay, I'll get to that one. Go ahead. Yep. Yeah, typically, so it's a question on how do we pair people up, and can spouses pair together? Yeah, you can pair together. It's really about comfort level of being able to do the job if you've never had the experience before. Another question was, is there going to be police presence at Central Count? There won't be a presence physically at the building unless it's necessary. So if we see people outside the building that we don't have any control what they do, and they're, for example, open carrying, that's legal. They're allowed to do that, but that's something the police are going to want to know about, and that they're going to deal with to allow those people to exercise that right to open carry, but still ensure the safety of the people not only inside the building, but outside the building. We're not going to have 118 people show up at 6 a.m. So we've got people staggered, right? So we're going to have a lot of people that show up at 6 and a lot of people that start showing up in staggered shifts after that. And everybody's going to want to talk with Diane, and the first thing that Diane's going to do in the morning is she's going to get everybody together and say, here are where I need people to be. And then if you're one of the people that's coming in after 6 a.m., if you're one of the folks that's assigned to come in at 10 a.m., when you come in, say, okay, Diane, what do you need me to do? Other questions? Yes?
What if you can't stay the amount of time that they're asking you to stay?
Well, I would ask that you give us a call today or tomorrow and let us know so that we can adjust that. But if you're unable to do that, let Diane know, I was scheduled to work, and I'm just going to make numbers up here, 8 to 4. I can only stay till 3. We'll be able to work around that.
I need people at 8 p.m.
Yes, we still need people at 8 p.m. 8 p.m. is not necessarily the end of the day because we still have all kinds of paperwork that we have to sign and that sort of stuff. So, before leaving, if you're scheduled to work till the end, make sure that Diane has said it's the end. And ideally, everybody will leave at the end of the day together, going out to the parking lot so it's safe and it's secure and everybody gets home safe and secure, because that's I think one of the great things that we can judge an election on, one of the things that I'm proud of that we've been able to do in Janesville in both April and August is that we were able to hold elections in the middle of a pandemic, and there's not one case of COVID that could be traced back to somebody doing something with the election, whether that be working the election or voting. You know, we've taken the appropriate steps to keep people safe, and it's important to me that all of you folks who, yeah, I mean, we're paying you, but it's not a lot of money. We all know that. It's a token amount of money. You're volunteering your time. And there's absolutely no way that we could have an election without all of you working that election. And so I take your safety very seriously. It's the least I can do. And so I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that result. And I want to get through one more election and be able to say the same thing in December that I'm saying today. Nobody got COVID because of the election. And if we did that, as bad a year as 2020's been, I'll consider it a success from an election standpoint. And then we'll just hope that come February, when we have our next election, that we're more back to normal. Yes?
What's your estimate of closing time? Is it the same as 10 o'clock when you're hoping to be reporting results? Is it later than that?
Typically what happens, the machine has to send the results to the county, and that can take 40 minutes for that machine to do that. You know, Diane, what do you think is the normal time after the results have posted that you guys are done and ready to go?
I would say if we're out of there by 11, it'll be a miracle.
Oh, Diane, if we're out of there by 11, it'll be a miracle. So you think maybe an hour after results are being sent?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, see, we have to get all these registered write-ins
Yes, that's going to be one of the...
be recorded.
That's going to be one of the challenges is the registered write-ins. And Diane, I'll talk with you offline on some ideas I have on how you can do that and hopefully make that easier so you're able to kind of keep track of those through the day
Okay.
so that you're not going through all of that stuff at the end of the night.
You have to put all those ballots in the ballot bag.
Yep. Oh yeah, there's lots of closing stuff to do, but I think we've got some plans in place to keep you guys moving so that that's not going to become a choke point for you at the end of the night, where you think, wow, we just processed 25,000 ballots, and then you look and go, oh wow, we still have a list of stuff. Does anybody else have any questions?
So is it the central count, is that all the absentee ballots or absolutely all of the ballots?
It's all the absentee ballots. So anybody who votes in person will still go to a polling place. These are just the people who have requested absentee ballots. Yes?
As these absentee ballots have been coming in, just from a historical record point of view, you keeping track of how many have come in on each day so that you can understand just what the traffic flow pattern is?
Yes, we track how they return by day. So we track when we issue it, and we track when we get it back. And I don't, the interesting thing that's going to happen is, while 2020 is certainly an anomaly in how people are voting because of the pandemic, I think it's going to shift long-term how a lot of people vote. I'll use my wife as an example. She's never voted absentee in her life until April. After the April election, she said, I may never go to a polling place again. This is really too easy. I fill out a form, my ballot arrives in the mail, I fill it out, I put it back in the mail, you've already paid for the stamp for it to come back, so I don't even have to stamp it, and then it gets taken care of. And I can look on my vote to make sure that all those steps were met and know that it came back to your office. Why would I ever show up to a polling place again and risk that I got stuck at work, or on my way to the polling place the car broke down, or it's a February primary election, which isn't very exciting, and I don't remember that there's an election until the night before when you say, yeah, I have to get up at 5 a.m. tomorrow to go work the election. So I think we're going to see a shift in how people vote moving forward. And so it's important that we have that for historical purposes. All right, well, with that, I'm going to thank you all one more time. I will see you on Tuesday. Both Derek and I will be in probably multiple times. Derek might spend a lot of time there. I really appreciate your offer to help and all the efforts that you're going to put forth on Tuesday. I will ask you to do a health check on Tuesday before you come in. If you've got a fever, if you can't suddenly smell or taste, please don't come. We understand. Just let us know that you're unable to attend. We get it. We don't want to get anybody else sick, but I do appreciate it. And I'd ask that as you leave the same way that you came in. I want to thank JPAC for offering us up this space so that we could do an in-person training. It's far better, I think, than me sitting down and talking into a camera. We had to do that in August, and it's really hard to know if I'm getting anything through to people, and it's impossible for you to ask me questions. So I appreciate you all coming out, and have a good day. Yes?
You brought something up here. If I find out that I'm running a fever, or I've got a cough or something, do I call your office, email your office?
You can do either. You can either call us or email us and just say that you have a fever and that you're not going to be there.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, that number that's on there, it's 755-3073. All right, thanks everybody. We'll see you on Tuesday.